Assalamu alaikum, guys. So we're on to scene 3 of Act 3, and we are going to be dealing with the aftermath of what has just happened in the previous scene. Previous scene was filled with violence, and it even has 2 deaths. One of Mercutio, the fight that broke out between Tybalt and Mercutio, Romeo that stepped between them and wanted to stop the fight. Tybalt, then cowardly seeing a little space open, and decides to pull out his sword and stab Mercutio. In a fit of rage, Romeo then takes revenge and in turn kills Tybalt. So he has gone to Friar Lawrence's cell as the townspeople, the town of Verona's people, are all out and about in the streets discussing all of this. The Lord and Lady Capulet and Montague, the prince, are all deciding what is to happen. And a decision was made in the previous scene that Romeo would be banished, even though Benvolio gave a very clear account of the details of what happened and reasons why as the main witness. So we are in Friar Lawrence's cell. And just a note, we discussed this during normal classes before lockdown in term 1. A cell could be seen or was seen as a little room where a prisoner would be kept. But it could also be, and in this case it is, a little room where a nun or a priest would sleep. This would be their abode, where they live, their home. Okay, so he enters and he has a discussion with Friar as to what is happening, and Friar gives him the horrible, shocking news that he is actually banished now from Verona. And just as the previous scene, as Juliet took the news from the nurse who told her what had happened, he too sees this banishment as a death sentence. In line 9, Romeo says, "What less than doomsday is the prince's doom?" So in modern English, what he's saying is the prince's punishment any less awful than doomsday. So doomsday being the end of time, and he's seeing the judgment, the prince's ruling over the death of Tybalt as similar to a doomsday, the end of earth. Friar then replies, "A gentler judgment vanished from his lips. No body's death, but body's banishment." What he means is he made a gentler decision. He could have told the townspeople his decision is that Romeo must die. But he did not say that because he understood what Benvolio was trying to explain, that it was the murder of Tybalt was in retaliation of the murder on Mercutio, Romeo's cousin. So they have a long, lengthy conversation about this, and Romeo actually feels very unsupported. He feels that the friar is not understanding the situation, is in the enormity of the situation he finds himself in. So obviously, Romeo does not want to understand, and like many of us, when we are consumed with emotions, whether it be good or bad, whether it be rage, revenge, anger, or happiness, joy, we will act in much extreme measures as Romeo is. So the friar is trying to calm him down, and he says to him, "Accept your banishment, but consummate your marriage." What he says is, why are you talking about the judgment of the prince is as bad as death, or as bad as the end of time? You are not being killed, you are being banished only, and surely somewhere in the future things may change, but you must consummate your marriage. Remember earlier on, friar was the priest that married Romeo and Juliet, but their marriage would only be absolutely valid once it's been consummated, once they did the deed, the sexual deed. But Romeo, very stubborn, he replies to what Friar says to him: banishment is as good as death. So very rebellious, very emotional at this stage. So next on the scene, there's a knock at the door. While the two, Friar and Romeo, is busy debating whether the judgment of the prince is really that severe, whether it's actually a death sentence or whether actually there is a silver lining, there's a knock at the door. And who enters is the nurse. And she comes in and she's, "Oh, holy friar, oh, tell me, holy friar, where is my lady's lord? Where is Romeo?" She's looking for Romeo because obviously she has news to give to him. So when they open the door and they find it's the nurse, obviously Romeo is very curious and excited to find out what is going on with Juliet. Does she know of the fact that he had killed her cousin, and does she know about the news? So as the nurse enters, Romeo says to her, "Sparkest thou of Juliet? How is it with her?" What he's basically saying is he wants to know how she feels, how she's dealing with all of the news. And the nurse replies, "Oh, she says nothing, sir, but weeps and weeps, and now falls on a bed, and then starts up, and Tybalt calls, and then on Romeo cries, and then down falls again." So obviously, Juliet is in a very, very bad state because she's at a cross between her mourning of her cousin, her blood cousin, Tybalt, as well as the fact that it is her husband who has killed Tybalt, that her blood cousin has died at the hands of her newlywed husband. And then Romeo obviously replies as if that name, shot from the deadly level of a gun, did murder her as the name's cursed hand. And what in modern text, what he's actually saying is that she's calling out to him that she needs Romeo's support in this difficult time. So he refers to Friar Lawrence and he asks him, tell me, Friar, is that part of my body? Is my name embedded? Tell me so I can." And he actually now hates the fact that he has done what he did. He regrets it. So this is what happens when we act in times when we are emotional and we run on adrenaline. That is why when we are upset, we should take a moment. There's some rule that says count to 10 or just walk away. And just take time out and assess yourself, assess the situation, assess who the person is that has either done or said something to you that has put you in that state. But this was not the case with Romeo. He acted on impulse, he acted on anger and revenge. And as Romeo is explaining how the fact that what he did is causing himself and Juliet so much anguish and pain, and the fact that he has now been banished from Verona to mature, he actually threatens to kill himself. And he takes out his dagger, his sword, as if to stab himself. The nurse, as well as Frau Lawrence, obviously jumps up and tries to stop him. But Frau Lawrence gets very upset with him and he gives him a good talking to, a good scolding. And the following lines is the scolding, the reprimanding that Frau Lawrence says to Romeo. So the scolding, as you can see, is very lengthy and it's very severe. And in a nutshell, Frau Lawrence is actually a bit disappointed in the response of Romeo. He reminds him that in any case of adversity, and this is it rings true to all of us. When we have a situation where we are in a difficult space, there is some life-changing event that has happened. There's obviously a reason for it, but we won't see it at that moment. We are caught in the, so to speak, whirlwind, so we cannot see the bigger picture. So he goes and it reminds him of all his blessings that he has chosen a wife. He got married, he's got his health and the love of his wife. So he continues to scold him and for him to think about his blessings and not just the injustice that has happened to him. So what I need you guys to understand that there is a very vivid theme that runs through at this point, and that is the one youth versus age. So in everyday life as well, we have the youth, you guys, teenagers, that are operating at a mindset and experience skill set of your age, whether it be 14, 15, 16. And then you have the older generation, for example, I'm just talking about your close family, your parents, for example, your grandparents that are older than you, and they have a mindset and a skill set in conjunction with their age and their experience. So it rings through here as well. In the previous scene as well as now, you have Romeo and Juliet that is so emotional because of the news. They cannot see beyond them not being together. They are married and they cannot understand why they cannot be together. Emotional, they are willing to act upon this emotional state, brings in death and the threat of killing themselves, versus the wisdom of the age. That is your parents, your family, the older generation that is always advising, your teachers even, that are always advising you on the situation, because and it's to be understood that you make decisions and you make assumptions based on your skill set and experience, and yours compared to your 14, 15, 16 years compared to your parents double or sometimes triple that is obviously a much greater number. And with that being said, they have more experience. They can look at what the situation you are in from an outsider's point of view. And that is exactly what Frau Lawrence is telling Romeo, that why are you being so selfish and so short-sighted? The bigger picture is the prince's judgment was not that you are going to be killed for committing a murder. It is actually being lenient and only banishing you from Verona. So let us use this example in Shakespeare as a lesson as well, just something to think about. That sometimes when a misfortune happens to us, we only see it from that perspective. We are inside the problem and that is all we see. We look left, right, up, down, that is all we see. But if we take a moment and step back and assess the situation and not just act on impulse, then there might be a better outcome for us. And we are at the end of the scene where the nurse gives Romeo Juliet's ring, and he takes solace, he takes comfort in having something of her, of his great love, of his wife, during this difficult time of anguish and heartache. He had, but at this point, calmed down because he was very rebellious toward the scolding and the reprimanding, which is actually just counseling and good advice of Frau Lawrence. He actually accused Frau Lawrence and said to him that old men have no eyes. Over there, what he's meaning in modern text is that when you are old, you cannot actually see the situation for what it is. Ironically, it is Romeo as well as Juliet that have the short-sightedness, and it is the counsel, or the root word counseling, that and advice of the older people in the scene, which is the characters of Frau Lawrence and the nurse, that is counseling both Juliet back home in her room and Romeo in Frau Lawrence's song. So let's take heed of this advice, and let's not just jump to conclusions and act on impulse. So we're at the end of Act 3, Scene 3. I hope you enjoyed it. I must apologize. We have some serious renovations happening at our home, so I was a bit conscious making this, but there is no other time because they are busy day and night. So I hope that the interruption wasn't too bad. Shukran guys. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.